Okay, so this meeting, we're hoping to be the annual meeting for the KCKA. My name is Joshua Crowley. I was approached by Steve earlier this year to help get the KCKA going again. I'm nothing special. I'm just an old retired guy from the Army that went making knives full time. And Steve said, "Hey, will you do this?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." My wife's been a big part of helping me out. She's also the co-owner of our business, the Ogre's Forge. And so what we've done is we looked at the current bylaws, looked at what the KCKA offered and what we could do to improve it. And so we got together a couple of folks. We've kind of been working as the behind-the-scenes pseudo board to get us to this point. From this point forward, once all of you out here vote on the bylaws, the changes to the bylaws, I'll submit them to the state and we become official, right? And then this is your organization, okay? So a couple of folks have been helping us out. Dan Dickerson, he's been kind of working as our, ad hoc secretary. Steve's been working as kind of the deputy sheriff for all of this.
Yeah.
And I'd like to keep Steve involved just because he knows everybody. So when think about that when you guys are voting for members or for board members. Deke Parker, all the way out west. He's been sitting in all of our board meetings. We do them all via virtual. And so he's had a lot to add to it as well. My wife, Scott, has been kind of managing our social media. And then Grant has been filling the role as our historian. He's recorded all the events, kind of keeping a video log of everything that's been going on so far. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So nothing is official. This is all voluntary up to this point. And that brings us to this juncture here. Before we get to that. So my big thing with all this is transparency. Okay, nothing happens in the association without at least the voting members knowing about all of that, right? We'll get into the different memberships a little bit later. And what I mean by this being your organization is, you guys know how the NFL works, right? You have the commissioner, right, the admin portion of it, but nothing happens in the NFL without the vote of all the NFL team owners. Right, the owners, the team owners, they own the NFL. Right, Roger Goodell and the rest of those guys, they just manage the day-to-day working of it. Okay, and that's how I see the KCKA. Is the voting members own the KCKA. Right, the board just does what the voting members want them to do. Okay, essentially how the federal government is supposed to work, but it doesn't. So transparency, and what we owe to you guys is once a month, you'll get an email, you're going to get a bunch of them from us. We'll try to keep it down to once a month, but you'll get an email with the minutes from the board meeting. Any monies that are spent will be in that email. Any changes that are made to the calendar based on your suggestions will go out in that email. So everything will happen in that email once a month. And then that report will get put in a memorandum for record, and it'll go in our archive, so it's always there. Right? And the archive will be held online in the members portal on our webpage, and you guys can go visit that and look at all the things that happen in there whenever you want to. Right? And that members portal is only for the voting members. Again, we'll talk about that a little later. But transparency. Okay, so everything that happens in it, whether it's we spend $5 on something, we change the date from a Saturday to Sunday, whatever it is, you guys are going to know about it. Okay? Nothing's done in secret or hidden or whatever. And mostly it's all at your behest. Okay? So just like NFL, the voting members own the association, and the board just does what the voting members want them to do. Okay? So the bylaws. We cannot be official until the bylaws are voted on and submitted to the state. So we have the old bylaws. I've made some changes to them. You guys should have all reviewed them. And basically all I did in the changes was I defined or fleshed out the definition of what we do as an association. And then I separated the two types of membership, okay? And I'll read this to you right now, and if you guys are good with it, all right, we'll just vote, show of hands. I'm just gonna assume everybody here is a voting member right now, and you don't know any different. And we'll go with that, all right? So our mission, to perpetuate the art of knives to all knife enthusiasts. These include, but are not limited to, collectors, creators, kit makers, bladesmiths, knife makers, purveyors, and end users. To provide an educational forum for the exchange of ideas, techniques, and innovations. To provide an educational environment to teach members and non-members the varying aspects of the knife, and to be a steward of knowledge encompassing all aspects of the knife. To promote displays of individual works, collaborative works, and collections, and to promote a general fellowship amongst individuals interested in knives in part for all aspects as previously mentioned. And then I define a knife. So a knife is defined as an instrument held in the hand with a sharpened edge and a handle generally in line with the edge with a minimum blade length of 0.5 inches and not to exceed 22 inches with 26 inches overall. Okay. So that's the first portion that we put in, or we have for vote, if you will, to change in the bylaws. That just defines who we are, what we do, and what a knife actually is. And so the next thing that I changed in the association, in the bylaws, proposed change in the bylaws, is the members, right? So members of the corporation shall be such persons as have paid their membership dues and are accepted by the board of directors. These members are categorized as the following: general members, voting members, and board members. General membership shall include invitations of all sanctioned social events, all sanctioned association events, social media pages, and broadcast association events. Voting members shall include the right to participate in all voting events, to include but not limited to expenditure of monies, board membership, event calendar, bylaws, association sanctions, and shows. Voting membership also includes invitations to all sanctioned association events, social media pages, broadcast association events, and access to the association digital library within the website. And that will go in the bylaws. That is up for you guys to vote on. If you have any changes or additions, we need to know about them now. Go.
So the minimum that you indicated was 4 inches?
0.5 inches.
Oh,
Half an
I'm
inch.
sorry, I just didn't hear it correctly. 0.5 inches?
Yep, a half an inch.
I'm not sure on a nonprofit, but is there a indemnification clause for any paying member from liability of any type or sort?
No, so that falls under something different, a different liability clause, if you will. So we would have to draw that up and get it approved through whatever insurance company we decide to go through.
In terms of like an insurance policy?
Yep, and those can be event insurance policies, right, where we go and we say, we need to be covered for these 3 days. And so the association would pay for that policy, and then insurance would cover us for that period of time. But that also helps us out because we don't have to pay insurance the entire year, because that gets kind of expensive.
So should the bylaws therefore then include the intention to secure that insurance for all those events or anything? To
It's
protect
not
the
required
membership?
by the state of Kansas.
It's not.
You have something?
Me?
What else we got? Nothing? All right, what you got?
There's, trying to remember everything, but there was nothing in there that identified as a professional organization. Okay, that's fine. As long, because that was a big issue with BBS, and we're just putting together a redefinition of the policies. Because as a professional organization, there was the issue of retirement benefits, insurance, all these things that are valuable to individuals. But once that happens, then the 501(c) is in jeopardy. And so that would have to be independent.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just,
Right. Now, the ABS is set up like that because they do have actual employees, where we don't have employees. We have, volunteers and volunteers. What else we got? Anything else on the bylaws? So I will make a note of getting the insurance clause, right? I'll double check with the state. Last time I looked, there wasn't anything because there was an issue of insurance in March when we talked about it then. And I looked at the state requirements. There's not a requirement through the state to do that. But we can definitely build something for the association and put it in our own repository, if you want to call it that.
Right, it's provided for in most forms of business, but I'm not sure how nonprofits
Right,
protect their membership from exposure to lawsuits.
right. Yeah, no, it's not, there's nothing required by the state of Kansas that I was able to find when I looked into it. But we can definitely pursue that.
When somebody joins, do they decide if they just want to be a general member or a voting member?
That's up to them. And we're gonna change that on the membership forms we give out. And again, that's something that's up to you all, right? Do you want that initial person who joins to automatically be a voting member? Or do you want them to be a member for a year or 2 years before they can become a voting member, make decisions within the association? What's the thing? What? Everybody's good with it? All right, so my suggestion is they be a member for a year before you can reapply to be a voting member. And the only reason I would say that is that it lets them go to all events, see everything that happens within the association for 1 year to see how it operates, and then, up their membership to be a voting member. And that way they have an idea of how we operate, how things go, instead of coming in, just throwing out an idea that maybe we've already covered or tried in the past or something like that. All right, that's my suggestion, but it's up to you guys.
I like that. I mean, I just affirm it because you've got a commitment every year. They will have paid dues in it for the second year. And that suggests that they're going to be an ongoing member and get some investment in the program. Or somebody comes in and pays just 1 year right away and has voting rights. May or may not be there for the long term. That investment isn't indicated by that kind of process. So yeah, I like that.
All right, so if it's okay with everybody here, right, then we'll go with that. Nobody has any objections.
Yeah.
Right. Silence is compliance. So you guys know that, right? Yeah.
Does it matter on how many times you show up to a meeting per year? Or?
It would for voting members. Like, you didn't even active participate. Right. So this is your meeting every year if you're a voting member, because all the stuff, the policy changes, everything that happens in the association would happen at this meeting. We could have a subsequent vote, somewhere else down the road if you guys so chose, or something immediately came up that we need to vote on, then we can do that. But this is your meeting to vote at. You have to be at least one meeting. It should be this one. And then obviously we want you to participate in the other ones as much as possible. Now, Grant has helped us set this up to where if you can't physically make it to a meeting, right? He's setting it up. There's several platforms out there, and we're kind of bumping around for 3 different ones until we find one that actually works for us, where you can turn on at home, watch it on your smart TV, on your laptop in your shop, whatever it is, and then also have direct engagement, right? We will turn the speakers off so we can't hear you talk because we don't want a whole bunch of feedback in there, but you can type in, whatever your questions are, your comments, if you want to see something more specific in a certain area, but whatever we're covering, then you have that ability to. And this way, when we have, say we have something in Kansas City and somebody out west, like Eek, Eek's a sweet golf shot from the Colorado border and the Oklahoma border. I mean, it's about as far out as you can get, right? If he can't make it, but he still wants to participate, we're giving him that option to participate. And that would count, right, as participating in a meeting.
Will there be a proxy clause that you would just assign your voting privilege to the board?
No, I think that if you're online, right, and you can engage online, then you can easily vote that way too. So, I mean, this is the digital age. I mean, we're going to use it. There's a lot of board meetings that go on at very high corporate levels, just like this. Okay, so no, you wouldn't have to assign your voting assignment to somebody else or let the board do it. You still have the ability to log in and vote. Right? I'm not going to take that away from anybody. And I don't want that responsibility. Okay, so are we all good with the bylaws?
You're here.
Here. Okay, bylaws are good. All right, so I'll make those changes and then I will submit them this week to the state of Kansas on behalf of the KCKA.
Do you have a question? So what group will be our initial set of voting members? Is it us in the room?
Right now, it's who we have in the room. That's what I'm going with because I don't know anybody else. I don't have a delineation between anything else.
Yeah. Like, as soon as you submit that, then we suspect that we have members and.
So you guys have all received emails from Dan, right? He's going off of an old membership list. He's trying to get that cleaned up. Individuals don't want to be members and all that stuff. So as part of that, what we'll send out a new membership form. And it'll have the 2 levels of membership on there. Just pick which one you want to do it and send that back to, well, hopefully this will be Dan because he's really good at it. Send that back to Dan and then he will adjust the membership roles accordingly. Okay. So that brings us to fundraising. So in the bylaws, right, allows us to collect dues, right? So you would have 1 level of membership for regular members, obviously be, smaller amount of dues than the voting members, right? It also kind of delineates it. But what's the carrot to get you to want to be a voting member? Okay. So regular member, general membership, right, gets an invitation to all events, right? No different than anything else, right? Really, according to law, you can't turn anybody away. And there's nothing in our bylaws that pushes disavows anybody to join, right? So anybody can join, right? They have access to all of our social media pages, right? They have access to the website, just the main page on the website, and then to receive emails from the association, right? You can come to all events, learn whatever everybody else learns, right? Have access to these things. The difference between this and the voting membership is 1, you get to vote. This is your organization, right? So you get to participate in how this organization runs, okay? 2, right, on our website in the members portal, right, you will get a login and password for that portal, and it's for members only, for voting members only. In there, right, one of the board members, she will be the steward, right? And that's the individual who basically manages all the knowledge for the association, okay? And we're going to create this repository in there where anybody who's a voting member can go in there and find information on whatever they want to find, and if it's not in there, you just send an email to the steward, say, hey, can you find out some information about this, right? Or I found information about this, could you put this in, the the repository so other people can have it. And we'll put that in there, right? I've used basically all spring, the example of Apex Ultra, right? Apex Ultra is designed by two British guys and a Swedish guy. Two of them are metallurgists, one's a bladesmith, and it's the new steel that's out there. It's made specifically for forging high carbon kitchen knives or high quality kitchen knives. So it's the new thing, right? Anybody know anything about it? Right? So the steward would take that, go find out all the information about it, pull it out, put it in the repository, say, hey, this is the new hotness that's out there. I just put a bunch of stuff in the repository, send it out to everybody in an email, and you can go out and you can review it yourself. Right? All of the videos from every hammer in, every shop tour, every demonstration will also be in there. Okay, so I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I don't remember everything from every hammer in that I go to, right? I remember like 10% of it. And when I go back to my shop, I try to recreate it, and I can't figure out why I can't recreate it. So we're going to give you a repository where you can now go back and watch the video and be like, oh, that's what I missed, or everything's going to be in there for you, right? And that's what we're giving to the voting members. And the last thing is once a year, we want to do an event somewhere. And the biggest one I've been able to find so far is the state fair, where the association pays for a booth at the state fair, right? It's a week long, 10 days long, whatever it is. And then you as voting members get the opportunity to go put your wares at that table. We'll put some KCKA signs up there, and you don't have to pay for that booth. We pay for it, and you could go meet people, talk to people at the state fair. I mean, I think last year the state fair had 400,000 people go through, right? That's an opportunity to sell knives to 400,000 people.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we want to give back to you as the voting members. Okay? Membership costs a little bit more, but we're trying to give you as much as we can, right, within the association. What do those prices look like? It's up to you guys. Whatever you guys think is fair, right? I'm not making that decision, right? This is, again, your association, so you guys can now discuss what does that cost, or what should that cost be? Should it be an annual cost? Should it be a 5-year thing? Right? Should we have a lifetime membership? Right? What should that look like right now?
You could have all those options, it just costs different monies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I know the ABS charges for just a regular membership $60 a year, and that's manageable for most people.
Right.
So, I don't know, it would be a good starting point.
What's the projected cost to run it?
So right now, everything is free. Right? If you did, so on the rolls right now, those are active. Some folks have said, I don't want to be a member anymore. We'll have moved out of state or whatever the case is, right? But if you use 100 as your number, okay, and everybody pays like regular membership or general membership is $20 a year, okay, then you're at $2,000, right? $2,000. So that's what the association would bring in that year. Okay, a booth at the state fair probably doesn't cost $2,000. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, right? So that wouldn't cover all the costs. And then at this event every year, we want to, we're not doing it this year because we don't have any money, right? But next year we want to do like a whole blown out barbecue for everybody. Just a really fun event, where we feed you and, it's a huge social hour. Everybody has a good time, right? That's one of the things that we as an association want to provide for all of its members. Again, it costs money. So the only drawback to monies in the association is you cannot have more than $10,000 in your account at the end of the year. Right? So you could have $100,000 in the account up to the end of your fiscal year, but once your fiscal year ends, you cannot have more than $10,000 in the account. Okay. So, what you got?
I know we're comparing to the ABS for, the dues, and however we built that up, I don't really care, but I ran the auctions for the ABS for close to 9 years. And that ended up bringing in, in some years, more than the dues. So we were auctioning off 12 knives, and most of them were going for $2,000 to $10,000. And that was a lot more money than we did with dues. In some years, the ABS membership has increased substantially in some of that time. But in events like that brings in money, and auction is done by a lot of 501c3s. So that kind of thing could be something we could look at.
Absolutely.
It could be an online auction. But the nice thing about the ABS's auction is that it's at the blood show. And so you go to the blood show, you get a lot of people, you've got people who come there to bid on those things. The advertisement goes, worldwide based on the photos that are taken and are put out there. But it could be online.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things. There's also the possibility, since it's an educational 501c3, looking at a couple of large corporations in Kansas who might be willing to sponsor the educational element of it. Might even be able to put up some of the costs for other things. So I was in charge of the auctions for the ideas. I also looked at some of the places where we might be able to get grants. One of those is the Cook Foundation, with Walmart, one of those was Tiffany. And if you're made cutlery, there's a nice photo of Teddy Roosevelt with a big Tiffany knife with a belt. But some of these corporations going on, some of the corporations, and this is going to sound sexist, but I don't mean it to. There was a substantial number of corporation CEOs whose spouses were on the board that made any decisions about what was part of the art endowment granting agency. So typically it went towards things that were paintings. There were, with all women on it, there was a majority of women on it, and that was more what they were looking for. But Coke Foundation is a possibility. They're pro, the kinds of things that probably most of us are pro in terms of guns and knives and stuff like that. And they have a large endowment that they use to do that. They're lukewarm. I didn't pursue it, but I think something like that, even when it's lukewarm, could be turned into something that might, but that takes time.
Sure.
Yeah. But
Sure.
it's just a share. Particularly the auction thing was major funding. So when you say $50 may not get it unless you had something like the ABS has in terms of the auction. So.
Absolutely. Raise your hand. No? What you got?
I would defer to Steve and the former members for a realistic number to properly fund the organization. I don't think we want to be down to 8 ball. And he knows what all the supply costs and stuff like that. We don't want to create a barrier to anybody joining, and we can make an avenue for that. But I'm saying, we've ought to have a handle on that number before we decide on a membership. Otherwise, it's just arbitrary.
Well,
Go ahead, Larry.
Going to the Missouri Blacksmith Association band conference the past couple of years, and their annual membership for the general is $30. That's reasonable. It gets you into the annual meeting, and they do a big blown out. They bring in master smiths and master blacksmiths and stuff to put on classes. It's a pretty good event. $30 is not outrageous by any means for a general membership type deal like that. And voting is a good deal more than that.
Right.
what I'm getting at is that number's already out there. All we gotta do is reach out to some of these other organizations and see what they're shooting at.
Got Steve and then.
Well, we originally was doing, I don't know if it's 30 or 35. And then-
I remember you complaining we had too much money.
You know, and that's, now honestly, the problem we had, we started out with a lot of big plans of, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and none of it happened. We were gonna do a night show, but then nobody wanted to do the effort of putting on the night show, and we were, you know, we had the merchandise, we making money off the merchandise, and we didn't spend any money. We had money just rolling in, but we didn't do anything. Because, quite honestly, I tried to push some people to do something and you know, let's do a night show. And my answer I got back was, that's why I'm paying dues, so you'll do it. I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, so we didn't get anywhere. So our experience probably is not going to be beneficial. It's a legitimate question you got, but I think more like the associations that are accomplishing something would be a better guideline. We wound up giving away $5,000 to close it down because nobody wanted to do anything. So,
But I'll tell you, the only thing that we have planned, like for big events, is this meeting right here every year. And if this morphs into being the Kansas Custom Knife Makers Association knife show, annual show, whatever, I don't care. But this is the one thing that we want to do every year. And then we want to provide you all with a show that gets a high traffic or high volume of people, and maybe a smaller show if we can do that. So that it gets our name out there, right? So it's kind of a twofold thing. Gives you a place to sell knives, but you don't have to pay for a table. At the same time, it allows us to get our name out there and, you know, maybe generate some more interest in what we do. Okay, so those are the only two big things that we are planning on. Now, we got a bunch of, you know, shop tours, stuff like that we want to do. But that's our big plans, so it's not big enough for you. Sorry.
well, I started off small is a fine thing to do too.
Yeah.
Get organized in what you're accomplishing, trying to spread out too thin.
Right.
You're gonna have $100 a year for the website with the hosting and the registration of the website name. You know, and we were doing the iron and a half thing, which honestly, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And we were raising $100 to $300 at an event
Right.
with the iron and a half. Crap and selling each other our crap, you know? I mean, honestly, that's what we're doing, but everybody has a blast doing it. It's fun drawing the tickets and see who wins what. But that's a pretty good money maker, honestly.
Probably make us $3,000 a year if we
Well,
did it
and,
right.
and whatever the plans are for hosting events, like we were doing our shop tours, when we went around to different guys' shops, we did this, RVs, mine. A lot of the guys didn't have a good, well, we rented make-off or rented toilets, which was $75, $100 for a day of renting toilets, but the hour and a half covered that, expenses, coffee and donuts and stuff at an event. We were pretty much taking an hour and a half money and using it to pay expenses for whatever each individual event cost. So,
using that as a metric, you're looking at probably $200 an event, averaging out. Some of them are going to cost more than others.
yeah,
You know, so you need at least $2,000 a year to run the association, right? And if we did your general membership at $30 a person, then that would be enough to cover our operating costs through the year. Does that sound like what we've discussed so far?
I know we're on money, but my takeaway from that is calories are a lot more important than dollars. You know, you can't really lean on them guys that hard.
I'm good with that. So I'm going to put that up here for general membership. What do you think voting membership should cost?
Josh, I can touch on that real quick. I know you've already got 30.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
I know, you just forgot.
I forgot you.
You know, I think in getting, and part of the whole plan too, is getting back to the basics. And like Steve said, you know, we had having the shop tours at different people's houses. And I know you got that, and I haven't been to any because we've been doing all this camera and stuff. But that really is huge to me, getting to go see other people's shops. And I always learn something and see a new jig or whatever. I mean, I think if we could really get people interested in going back and doing other people's shops, and like Steve said, that's a big money maker. And I really like the idea of the state fair. You know, I never thought about that. I think that's a good idea. I don't know how big that booth is. We would have to like maybe go like in shifts and days or.
Yeah, there's different sizes.
Yeah.
You would each get a day. It's basically what we would do.
I think that's great.
Break it up into
That's in high
like 2-3 guys per day.
With him, we always did have a problem with having more money than we could spend. I think the money would come pretty quick, especially with the iron and half raffles. And a lot of times, not just some handle material or some steel or whatever, but a lot of times guys will just put a knife in there. I know Harvey, I think, donated a knife or something. And, you know, so you might end up with $200 or $300 just in one knife. It adds up pretty quick. Okay, good.
What's the website?
What's that?
KCKA.org.
Yes.
Yes.
So it will, the website's gonna get changed to a different area. I think we're gonna go with the Google website, the Google sponsored website. It just gives us a little bit more options for things to do within it. Our biggest thing is putting the videos in there. So the current one we have, you can only put a video link to YouTube on your website. So we want to go to one where you can access that portal, and in that portal will have, you know, a bunch of tabs, and they're going to be like, you know, just admin stuff, shop tour videos, you know, whatever else we decide to throw in there. But it's going to be your library once we get it all set up. So.
Once it's up and going, the web address will go out to everybody.
Yeah, we'll email out the new web address, because it may change depending on what Google forces us to do. But we'll try to keep the same domain name. And modern technology. So, what is your thoughts on what a voting member should have to pay, or needs to pay, or, I mean, I don't care if it's $31. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. It could be the same. But I think it needs to be a little bit different.
Well, you have access to the information, that's worth something.
When you become a voting member, do you get anything? I mean, like a t-shirt or some trivial thing. And what I'm saying is sort of like, you know, when the person goes and becomes a voting member, something is handed out and sort of works for them like they're getting something, so they're paying a little extra, but it's not a big thing.
That's up to you guys.
Yeah.
If you guys want something like that, we could definitely incorporate something like
Like a cap or something, you know. Yeah.
Several of the,
that. Good.
several of the comments that I've heard already, in my opinion, you know, we fall into strategic planning. You're gonna have to figure out what we can do the first year, what our plan is for 5 years, and what our plan is for 10 years down the road, and work towards that end goal.
And do we have any ideas of that answer?
No.
We do not. Okay, we better start thinking.
I've been pulling most of this out of my ass, so I just want everybody to know that. No, really, we're just putting everything together right now. We have some tentative goals to go forward, but it was just, like I said, it was like Scott, Steve, Grant, you know, Robin, me, just getting together and just coming up with some ideas. Right? Like I said, when I first started this is your association, right? If you wanted to go somewhere, you know, and you want to have a 5-year goal, and in 5 years we want to be right here, that's up to you guys, right? We, as like the pseudo board right now, we're just running admin stuff. We're just trying to keep it together. Okay?
Thank you.
So if you guys want something bigger, or you want to move to something bigger, I'm putting the onus back on you.
About this, once we get the email registry figured out and who all is a member and all that straightened up, why could we send out an email saying, to all voting members, whatever, what are you looking for out of this affiliation? And when do you want to see that by? And we can set those up for a 5-year and 10-year as far as like things to do. I mean, we could literally sit here and talk about it, but that's probably another hour or so of talking.
Right.
Or listening, more like how much talking going on. I think that's a thing to do. I mean, unless you guys want to hash it out right now. I mean, I know there's not people here. Everyone, I mean, there's a lot of people that's not here that could potentially be a member that's just on the list or whatnot. But I think that'd be a pretty solid thing, is to give the information before we get together and have the meetings. They need to have them be like, okay, this is our 5-year based off of, this is realistic, we can probably go 5, and this is our 10-year based off of long term.
It's not hard to send out.
So I like what Scott's saying. And so my suggestion would be that we just vote on the things we need to vote on right now, let it go for a year, and next year, because now you all know what's expected of you, come back and we say, okay, so I want to see a 5-year plan, so I want to see the 10-year plan.
Right, second.
One of the things I've done in my job is that every year when you're trying to figure out what needs to get done that year and what needs to get done in the next 3 years, we'll just throw out whatever and
See
get a
what
huge
sticks on the
list
wall.
and then just throw out what doesn't work and you know,
Yeah,
pick
absolutely.
the most important thing.
No, you're absolutely right.
And the way we've done it in business.
Is everybody here familiar with Google Docs?
Google what?
You should become familiar with it.
Google Dots.
Yeah, Google Docs,
Docs.
documents.
It's like Microsoft.
So what it is I would send out a link through the email. You guys go click on that link, and it's going to bring you to a Google page and a Google Word document. Everybody knows Microsoft Word, you know, where you type a sheet on there. And that sheet or that document would have whatever information was on there, right? So he said, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, right? And it's an open source document for everybody who has the link. Now you can go in there and you can just enter what you want in there, right? Leave it open. We'll leave the link open for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, we'll pull it down, and then the board now has what everybody who's a voting member wants to put on there.
I would say when we do that, everybody put their name next to what they
Right.
do, so we know whose idea
Doesn't
is
it do that
what.
automatically?
No.
No, like only,
It doesn't.
it only does it if you are like, so my school district where I work uses it, and only if like the person that sends it out has like your email in your account, like your contacts us on your phone. When it does that, when you can tell when people have written stuff down, but it's a pain in the butt to do that. Like it's,
Yeah, if you're gonna put a comment in there, just put your name in it, so we can see who made that comment. We can make fun of you later, Larry.
Yeah.
There's also the option of using Google Forms. It's similar. You just click on the link, you get a form, you click yes, no, maybe, other, type in whatever you want.
I am not gonna build that. Grant, if you wanna build that,
I
you are more than welcome to. But I am not building that.
This was a
But
tech
if
aid.
somebody wanted to control in a Google Doc, they could just delete it.
yeah, the Google Doc, if it's not paying attention, you can type over or remove whatever someone
You're right.
writes, because
I vote in.
Oh, wow.
on accident, like you just don't pay attention and go to the next line and someone's got something there, you're like, oh crap, what did they have written down?
That's not good.
I just used the more recent version of it.
Yeah.
Provide an article, good publication. And it would show in different fonts and highlights every edition of it. And so you can set it up so that happens.
Okay.
So, somebody goes in and types in a new sentence in another place, it's not the same font. It reads at the same size, 12 point, whatever you like, but you can tell that it's been a new addition to the original document. And I think that kind of helps people when they go back to reread what's been done. Here's something that's a suggestion from the original or added to it. But that worked well amongst 4 of us for trying to write the same article.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe not 20 of us are trying to throw out some suggestions. All right, well, that's an option. That's something that I would like to use, just to get feedback. You don't have to have an official meeting. We can send it back. You can get to it at your convenience, right? Goes back to the board, and then as the board, what the board will do is just take that information, basically quantify it, right? And then send it out to all the members again and say, hey, what do you guys think of this? You know what I mean? And then, like I said, next year's meeting, right, come back to it and say, okay, this is what you guys all have put on there, this is what you want to see, let's talk about it. All right, so it gives you kind of a pre-meeting, a time to throw out your ideas, right, and it saves us time in this meeting, because I can't stand meetings longer than an hour. Because, your butt can't handle long meetings longer than an hour, right? So, I really want this to be 30 minutes, but since it's our first one, Mike Lasco's got to get taken care of. So,
We're on how much it costs to be a voting member.
right.
Okay.
So what do you guys think it needs to cost to be a voting member? And then we'll move on from there.
I suggest 50.
50? Even 50? I mean, would you guys be comfortable paying that if you were a voting member?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that count double for us, Robin?
Is that with a hat or without a hat?
All right, look. I talked to Steve about this earlier.
I don't worry.
So there are companies out there like Custom Ink that will do fundraisers for associations or groups. So we would go in there, we would take the KCKA logo, say, hey, we want, to do t-shirts in these 2 colors or 3 colors. We want to do, polos, sweatshirts, hats, whatever in there. And then they would give us a link for that. They'll do all the design or whatever, right? They'll build basically our own page in there for just that thing. And then they would send the link out to us. We give out to all you guys, 30 days, you go in there, you find whichever paraphernalia you want, and you buy it directly from them. We don't, no money comes through us, right?
What do they get paid?
Once they meet their minimum, anything beyond that comes back to us. So it's a fundraiser type event, but it's also an event where you can get all the shirts, hats, sweatshirts, things that you guys want as well.
We did a lot with the charity.
We do it with wrestling program coach. We do that a lot. It's a good way to generate money.
So, yes, you can have hats, but you might have to pay for it.
No, but I was wondering, that service, how do they get paid that does that fundraising? I mean,
So you pay them,
there's a fee.
right? No, it's, once they meet their minimum, right, so they would have to sell, like their minimum would be 50 items, right? So shirts, hats, sweatshirts, all combined, once they meet their minimum, right, their operating cost and plus 10% or whatever they take off
Right.
the top, then beyond that, everything comes back to us. So that's that would be our influx of funds.
Not a real out-of-pocket kind of deal. I just
So it's not out of the KCKA pocket, right? Really, it's out of your pocket, right? Because you would go in there, you buy your shirts, right? And then that's how it actually gets funded.
They don't take a percentage?
Yeah, I think it's like 10 or 15% off the top of everything.
Okay.
I would like to add something on the voting members.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who aren't here that should be here and would be here. I would think people who were members of the original organization should have the right to go ahead and just say, I want to be a voting member and not wait a year.
Good with that. I'll wait a year.
I'll second that.
You're here.
Yeah, I'm good with that. If you guys are all good with that, if you're an original member, then your time is waived. I was just thinking that anybody new from here on out, would have to wait a year.
Everybody is here, so.
Go back up just a second, you're talking about apparel and stuff.
Yeah.
Just a matter of giving credit where credit's due. Our KCKA logo, you all familiar with their books on the forwards and stuff? The guy who designed that his name is Andy Garrett. He's the guy that just put up the dog bone animal
Yeah.
on page. Andy used to live in Wichita, and he's moved to Idaho, lives there now, but he's still one of our members. But Andy is a knife maker, and he's also a tattoo artist, and he designed the logo.
That's a good combination.
He's a member of the Idaho Knife Maker Association right now, is heavily involved in helping them run their organization, and he's quite willing, he's pretty sharp cookie. Very willing to help us with, what we're doing here to get this fired back up again. But just, for the newer folks, to credit where credit's due, Andy's the guy that designed that.
No mandatory tattoos for everybody.
See, this is why we keep Steve around, because he knows everybody and everything.
Exactly.
All right, I gotta bring one more thing up real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, you know how the Oklahoma Night group they were fizzling out, and they got going and sent out a bunch of stuff and started putting out all the flyers on Facebook and everything.
Sure.
Well, there's a girl by the name of Miko, and she was helping them with all their flyers and all the blasting flyers that are out for this hammer in that I'm having because of Central States. She's been doing all that kind of stuff, and I told her, about coming to this meeting. And she doesn't just do this for anybody and everything, but it's actually Ryu's sister out on her forest fire. And so she said if we wanted any help with getting this thing going and kind of like she helped the Oklahoma group do, she would be happy to help us. She doesn't get paid and she's not having to put money, nothing like that. I'm just telling you, the offer's there, and if you need help with something like that, she's going to have to share. So, sure. She's at our disposal, which is pretty good offer because she's pretty sharp.
That's awesome. Robin, will you get her contact information from them after this? Okay, so this brings us to the last part before we get to the event. We'll get to see people chop up a bunch of stuff. All right. So last part, we vote on board members. There are 7 board members. All right, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. Those are the required ones. Those have to be in there. And we've added 3, and there's 7. But we didn't define the last 3 in the bylaws, because we didn't want the state to be like deep in our business, right? It just said board members. We define those board members on our own, and I will do an actual memorandum for record signed by the board members defining what their jobs are and what they do. So the first one being the social media director. Right? That individual is responsible for putting everything on social media. We have Facebook, and Scott's setting up an Instagram for us too, because all you old bandits, right? Facebook's for old people, Instagram's for younger people, right?
Come on, Marketplace.
There you go. So he's setting that up for us as what?
To TikTok, LinkedIn.
Oh my God.
Rumble.
Yeah, we could do a LinkedIn one too. That would actually be probably pretty beneficial for us. So anyway, that's what the social media directory does. Okay, puts all the information on it. And I will go through and clearly define each individual's job, and I will send that out to everybody as well. So you know who to go to when somebody screws something up or messes something up, right? Who to talk to who, right? So I want you guys to have all information, right? Like I said, it's all about transparency. I'm not hiding shit from nobody. So the second one being the historian, right? The historian is responsible for, that's what Grant's doing right now for us, recording all the events, right? Making sure that stuff gets uploaded to the webpage, putting all that stuff in there for you. Coordinates with the social media director. It says, hey, I want to put this on social media, right? It's up to the secretary. It says, hey, can you get this out to everybody? And the last one being the steward. This is the one that I'm most passionate about. This is the job that I would love to do. So the steward, right? He's the knowledge keeper, right? He's that person that goes out and finds new stuff, finds old stuff we haven't talked about, right? I come across a couple of night books that were written in the 70s that have stuff in there that just blew my mind, right? Stuff that we've forgotten, right? And then he gets that, or she gets that information out to everybody, right? Or at least sends out a thing, says, hey, I just came across this. It's in the repository, right? It's there for you guys. And that steward, like his job or her job, is responsible for managing that library. Okay. Also, if something new comes out and there's like a new, get an instructor for us for a shop tour or something like that, that's the steward's job as well. For example, QMI, right? That's copper sandwiched blades. Right? It's 5 layers, got copper in the middle. I've talked to some masters, but it's like, what the hell's QMI? I show them pictures of it, and they're like, wow. Right? So it's just things that not everybody knows, right? One came out about 8-9 years ago. People start doing it. Now it's kind of a common thing. Okay, but that's stuff that we want to put in that library for all of you guys to be able to go and research, use, right? And this first year, library's gonna be kind of small, right, because we're just starting out. Right, but I'm hoping by next year, our library is huge. And I know a lot of you guys are gonna send us stuff, right, the steward's gonna go find stuff. You know, we're gonna have, our video collection gonna get bigger and bigger, right? So all that stuff is there for you, and that's what the steward does. So you have 7 members to vote on. I'm going to sit down, and you guys are gonna vote on that stuff.
What's the length of term you're thinking for each board member?
I would really not like to do it more than 2 years. It's really tough to you guys. You guys want to determine what that is? You can do that. I would suggest there needs to be a continuity in there. So if you say, you know, everybody serves 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, you got to have an overlap in there, so that the entire board doesn't change out at one time. Right. So I would say you could vote 2 members on, 2 members off every one of these meetings. So whatever that equates to, you know, a 3-year term, you know, 4-year term, whatever, that's probably what you need to do. What you guys do.
That's what we did with the old organization. We had 7 directors, and we rotated, the first year we did 4 of the directors stayed on for, 3-year term, but we rotated every 2 years, half the board got replaced.
Yeah.
And we allowed the membership to vote on it. Anyway, after a while, we couldn't get nobody to volunteer to do it anymore. So, me and Bill, and there were several of the Harvey, we just wound up being the board of directors because nobody volunteered to be a director anymore. But
You can, not like the presidency, you can serve 2 terms, more than 2 terms if you want, I don't care. Again, it's up to you guys. You can be it on there for 2 years and off for 2 years, back on for 2 years. But I don't care how that works. That's completely up to you guys. But what I will say is that, again, and I'm going to reiterate this, I'll keep reiterating this forever and ever. This is your organization, right? It's not the board's organization, right? It's not the president's organization. This is your organization. If you want to see something happen, right, you're the ones that make this happen.
From being on the this board for not quite a decade, there was value in the organization when it first started to have an attorney who was close to Bill Moran, who was on the board. What that meant is you had an attorney who was free and someone who could actually guide the organization in terms of things it could put on without violating its 501(c) status. And there were other things that would come up periodically where it really was helpful to have an attorney to give some guidance. Someone in here may be an attorney who's also a bladesmith. That would be, or a knife picker, that would be fantastic. But I could see having one person on the board for their technical expertise. It wouldn't have to be a knife maker, but they could be an invaluable resource for the board. An accountant probably is not necessary. The idea is to have someone who was an accountant on the
Bookkeeper.
board to begin with.
Bookkeeper. Yeah. Accountants and bookkeepers are the same people. Everybody knows that.
But, and then there's sometimes value in terms of having somebody on it who's going to make it their responsibility and motivation to promote the organization at a national level. It could be like the editor of a magazine.
A certain magazine.
Yeah, I mean, people know on this board, you know who that editor is. But something like that might be okay.
Yeah.
Knife rights, I don't know if they have somebody who, but they have the legal background. that you're willing to be a person on board. But you can't have too many of them. Okay, obviously, it's gonna become something else, and I actually got in trouble with Bill Moran for wanting to see more blacksmiths on the PBS board, but another story at another time. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility. I'm not suggesting it has to be that way, but I mean, yeah.
No, and that's one of the reasons we rewrote the bylaws, the definition, the way we did, is to include anybody who's just like mine. You know, you do not have to be a bladesmith, you don't have to be a maker to be a part of this. In fact, our next event will be a broadcast event next month, and it is a knife collector. And he's going to sit down with us and do a 1 hour kind of fun interview, and we're going to send that video out. Right? Because what a knife collector look for. Everybody know? What a knife collector look for in a knife? Like, we don't know. Right? So I want to go find a knife collector, sit down. I just happened to find, well, thanks to Steve, the president of the Knife Collectors Association for America, who's going to sit down with us and give us that fun interview. So then you guys can all see what does a collector look for in a knife. You know what I mean? So, you're right. Does not have to be a bladesmith on the board. You know, it could be anything. Anybody that brings, you know, I don't know, a higher level of knowledge to what we do, I think is great.
I got just two questions. So are there formal nominees for these positions that have been announced?
We have not formalized any of that.
Okay,
This is our first meeting, so.
All right. So the only other thought I'd have is the faces have all changed. COVID, you know, we just kind of broke up. But I know there was a lot of individuals that had a lot to do with the last organization. So is it, I mean, thinkable or plausible to consider that the board of directors be divided up into 50% of those that were founding fathers of the original organization, and then the other whatever half, someone new or whoever, you know, I mean, are we going to nominate people, or just where the names we're going to pull from today?
That's where everybody's looking at me for the answers, right?
Right.
Again,
Volunteers.
this is your organization. You can, if you want to have, like, this is our first year, right?
Right.
You know, first year back, if you will. So we really don't have a whole lot to work with. Like, individuals that aren't here, I mean, you really can't nominate them to sit on the board without their permission. And that's the only thing I would lay out there. Probably
Well,
somebody's permission.
He mentioned, you know, the fact that there was other individuals here that have been a part of the board. So I don't know, how do we fundamentally deal with that? Maybe they still want to do their jobs and they've been good at doing them.
Right.
But how would we know? I mean,
Well, I can tell you, none of them have responded to any of the emails that we've sent out over the last 6 months.
None of them?
Nope. So,
that's interesting.
and I would really like to have older knowledge on there, but I also, like Steve, push us to do some really young guys on
I think,
Agree with that.
I think like, in order for this organization to grow, we're gonna have to target a young audience. It's just the way it works, like, and then in order for this organization to thrive, I think we need to target an older audience. You need both of them. I think that maybe having, if they're willing to do it, some of the, I refer to this, if it offends you, I don't care. I refer to the people that's been around in an organization for a long time, old guard. They've been around for a long time. They've been here since it started. I think it's a good idea to have at least one of them on the board.
Just to clarify, I've answered emails.
No, we gave something back to you.
So I think it's important to have some of the old guard always on the board, people who's been around because they have the knowledge, the wisdom, not knowledge, but wisdom that the young ding dongs don't. And us young ding dongs have the charisma that the old guys are just letting you run with. That falls under charisma, I guess.
I know you're a big guy, but you're sorely outnumbered here.
Say what?
Old guy.
Oh, no, okay.
There's a lot more gray hair in this room.
Gray hair
than-
is-
Yeah, that's exactly
Gray hair doesn't necessarily mean you're part of the old guard. I would assume just anyone that's a full member for a while.
One last question.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a self-nominating board?
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm not nominating myself.
Well,
So,
I mean, the board itself nominates all new board members.
no, it's up to you guys. It's up to the
This,
voting.
this room.
Hey.
Okay, I'm gonna clarify this one more time, right? The board only manages all the administrative tasks for the association.
But they gotta wanna do that. We don't know
You're
who
right.
wants to do that.
You're right, they gotta wanna do it. I am willing to continue to do this for one more year. Okay, and then you guys can do whatever you want, I don't care.
Here's my
I
take
do
on
care,
that,
I do care.
is if they didn't come to this meeting for whatever reason, because it's been on the board for a while.
Yeah.
They're not interested in being on the board.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
So,
yeah.
that's the way I'm looking at it.
So I am more than willing to do this for the next 2 years because, for two reasons. One, I want to get all of the administrative stuff set up so that the next group that takes over, right, all the forms are built, right, our online, back and forth is already set, right? It just becomes for lack of a better word, our standard operating procedure, right? I was in the Army, right? Sorry. Right, it just becomes that, right, where everything is repetitive, so the next group doesn't have to reinvent the wheel,
I hear you.
okay? So I wanna build the repository, and then inside that repository, that administrative section, it'll have all our memorandums for record, it'll have whatever documents we're building or have built for the association will be in there. Like, everything is done so that, if Grant decides he wants to be the next guy in charge, right, and he gets voted in there, everything is done there for him. He doesn't have to go through and try to reinvent stuff, okay? After that, it's just adding to a little bit, taking away a little bit each year, but based on, again, what the voting members want, what you guys want. So I just want to get all the admin data and all that stuff set up so that anybody that's subsequent that comes through here, it's all done for you. Okay? So, and I can do that from any position. It doesn't matter to me. You can put me wherever you want. But I'm willing to do it for another year or so to get everything going.
Don't we have some of that from the previous that you had? Don't we have some of those forms and blah, 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 blah that he talks about already?
Yes, we have forms, but I don't know, like membership forms, you're wanting to change that.
We're just gonna change those two things on the membership form. That's all that's gonna change on the membership.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't know that we have any forms that are gonna be particularly useful.
And I don't think Josh is talking about coming in and changing everything per se, but getting it back up and going and just trying to improve it. Because I will say, as much as I don't want to, being his wife and knowing what to know, is he has a great mind for organization, for doing all this, and he has such a great passion for bladesmithing like everybody else in here. And right now, he has the time. So. So he's excited to come in here. And so when he talks about that from any position, we just love doing it. And so, but we don't want to change anything.
I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, right? We go out and we say next year we're gonna do a big barbecue, right? We go out and we spend $800 on beef. I really don't so you guys can smoke brisket, because I can't. We go out and we spend $800 on beef, okay? Where is that quantified in our records and our tax records? Because there's two different sets of records. Okay, there's actually 4 different sets of records that have to be kept for an association. Okay, are we tracking that? Right, so where is that quantified? So what I would do is I would build a generic memorandum for record signed by the treasurer and by one of the other board members, probably the president or vice president. And then what that would do is it would say, expended, X number of dollars, from the account for this expenditure. Account started at this, account ended at this, right? Signed, and it goes in there as a transparent record for everybody to see. So now if we get audited, because of what we've done.
Right.
Okay? So all that stuff's in there. So that's what I'm talking about, administrative forms and things like that. That's what I'm talking about, right? Defining each of the board members, right? That could be a KCKA Article 1, right? That's not in our bylaws, but it could be in our regular, whatever. And that would have all the board members defined in there, what they do, what their purpose is, what their responsibilities are, and then that's signed, right? That goes in there, right? So that's an administrative document that can be changed if we want to change it. We're going to say, hey, this one guy's taking, has just way too much responsibility, doing too much, right? We want to take some off of his plate, put it on somebody else's plate. That document can be changed, right? But the initial definition of it, we get done, get put into the administrative section, and it's there for you guys to see. And then if the next board comes in, thinks it's too much, then you as the voting members can change that. Right? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? All that stuff that sets up a corporation, because that's what an association is actually a corporation, right? All the stuff that sets up a corporation gets done, right? And then after I have it all done, I can step back and go, let's let it run. You guys can manage it everyone. Good.
I make a motion that we move on to nominations.
Sure.
And I would like to nominate Steve Culver for whatever position he feels like he wants to. And that takes care of the history of the, as far as so he can decline.
I second.
Second it. All right. Steve, you're on board.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
We'll try to get you.
What job do you want on the board? How's that?
Spectator.
You gotta have a job or it doesn't count.
How about, can he hold a position as advisor? Because he got worked to death in the last thing.
Yeah,
And if he's declined,
And
I'd
this
understand.
I'm fine with, but yeah, I am kind of wore out. with it.
Yeah.
Need to have a break
Yeah,
from
I think, so
administration type work.
I would say Steve can do the vice president's job because it's probably the least amount. He's gonna co-sign, for the treasurer is basically all he's gonna do.
I'm gonna do what?
He'll co-sign with the treasurer. So everything gets 2 signatures, right? So the
Yeah.
treasurer spends money.
So you both go to jail.
And then the XO vice president, he says, yep, that's good thing to spend money on.
Think about it.
It'll be all right.
I don't want to be.
1 year, you only got that for 1 year. And then we'll vote somebody else in next year.
No, you ain't gonna let me off that easy. No, I ain't gonna let that you.
I'll nominate Phil for president's position.
There you go.
Hey, I'm sorry that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to get you off, buddy.
All right.
I'm down with that.
Can you make more than one nomination?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to nominate Josh for the fine job he's doing for taking the role he has. Anybody second?
What title did you give that job? You said something.
Stewart.
Stewart, okay.
Oh, yeah.
For Stewart.
I was gonna nominate you for Stewart for you.
Second Stewart job. Hold on.
Now, how much more we got to do?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll nominate myself.
Scott's been doing that for a while.
And then you got Grant sitting right beside him.
Grant's gonna continue to be the historian. Sure. Okay.
Chandler, the integrator.
I thought you were coming up to me in charge.
No, I was gonna clap. I didn't know.
Just showing a road. So we have secretary and treasurer left. Dan's been doing most of the secretary stuff. And I would say that he had planned on being here, and he's really good at it. So I would make him
And I
do
think
it
he
for one
likes
more
to
year.
do it, right?
Does he want to be here?
I think, yes,
Yes, he
he
did.
really did.
He had a
And
family.
I think he likes doing it because it keeps him involved. Because
Right.
he's not making knives right now. He's really just taking care of his mom. It kind of keeps him involved. And I think he wants to stay involved. But
So-
Dan's another one that I wouldn't leave on the board for very long. I would just let it go so we kind of get things rolling and then let him take a step back.
So we need a second.
Treasurer, secretary.
Second.
So Dan's second. Now you need a treasurer. I nominate Larry the treasurer.
Who's Larry? Who is he?
He's back there in a black hat.
Oh,
I sat on too many boards already. I'd rather get off of one before I get on.
There you go. All right.
you got the hat.
Just to cover up the hair.
I thought it was a collective fundraiser.
Well, it's, he's not, what are you nominated for?
Stewart.
Well, I'm
Who
about
else is
to-
nominated for Stewart?
Nobody?
who's good at that?
Sucker.
Okay, how about a show of hands? Anybody interested?
Yeah, there.
We do need a treasurer. I mean, and I know that it's a pain in the butt.
What's all the, what's that now?
You're just managing the money, but you do it in conjunction with the vice president.
That should be a woman.
Right?
Raise your hand. They're better at it. They're, Pat,
Told you, even look at me, I have too many jobs.
no.
And then I'm co steward.
So everybody's always pretty timid about being a treasurer because you handle money and there's responsibility with the fact groups and money centric society. But the way that associations are supposed to work is it's 2 or 3 people signature on any kind of money expenditure. So you're not the sole individual, right? The second job of the vice president or XO or anything like that is the money side of it. So, sorry, Steve. Just got nailed with it, but if somebody wants to be the treasurer, right, you do it jointly with somebody else. It's not a lone position. In fact, most of the positions, as I define them in the association, are the positions where you do something with somebody
Unilateral.
else. Like nobody's on their own doing it. So, I mean, don't be too afraid to be on the treasurer here. The biggest responsibility is probably money on that.
Why can't we ever get involved and help?
With that. All
I nominate him.
right. Got it.
That guy.
Got it.
Yeah. Josh, what's your last name?
KCKA
HBCL.
All right, so that's all out of the way. We're good to go with all of that. So today's event, we are going to do the cutting competition, and it is almost noon. So my thought to you guys is, let's go get some lunch and come back to the cutting competition, and then we'll vote on all the stuff. What you got?
Then we just go ahead and vote on the site just to make it official.
Yeah.
Vote for the-
7 people nominated now.
Oh, I thought we did. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, read
Well,
read the
give me the
list.
dates.
Since you guys nominated, now you gotta vote on it.
If we're gonna do an association.
No, you're right.
we need to vote.
You're right.
That's right.
Good call.
So.
Okay.
Still for the president. Then we will go on.
Okay, so everybody knows who all the positions are?
I would just go by the slate.
Just the slate, just vote on the slate? Okay, all in favor of the current slate as it stands, we just talked about?
Aye. Unanimous.
Any opposed? It is unanimous, all right?
We feel official.
Good to go, now we're official.
So this is for, like, I know there's guys that are on the board, they've been on the board forever, and they're not looking to be on the board anymore. They just want to be a participant. So those positions for 1 year. And then next year, we can vote again for a president and vice president, and whoever else is like, I'm.
So I would think that the president needs to be at least 2 years, so we have that continuity going, right? Some of the other positions can be 3 or 4 years, but I think that like next year you can vote on, because I'm making Steve do this, and
Sorry, Steve.
he's just very not wanting to do it. But he's willing to do it for another year. So the vice president definitely gets voted out next year, and a new one comes in, right? And then I would say the secretary next year. Those are 2 people for next year, right? And the following year can be the social media guy and the president, or it can be whatever you as the association decide on, right? But next year, my suggestion is the secretary and the vice president change out. Just because they're been around for a while and doing it for a while, and I'm making them do it because they know everybody. And I don't know.
Then we won't get rid of us after a year.
That's right. No, you'll still be around. You'll still be a voting member.
I had a question about what we're doing next, if it matters. Maybe, what about the night show part of it, not judging? Should maybe we go ahead and do that next?
So we do that.
Yeah.
Then go to lunch.
Yeah, they go to lunch and then these guys can put their knives back in their vehicles.
So they're not left out or whatever. I got you. I
Yeah,
got
because
you.
they
That's what
drag
you're
them
saying.
around and then we'll make a big mess later with the cutting competition. Who here is going to participate in the cutting competition? Okay, so we got a few. Okay, good. Okay. I didn't know how many was, I was like, man, if I don't go all that stuff down here, nobody wants to do it. Oh,
You are
and one other thing. Okay, so Josh is taking the cutting bench for them. Where you go? The sandwich board sign on here, that's KCKA property. As well, I've got another one back here. And then, most of you probably seen the sign out the end of the driveway. KCKA owns 6 of those. And I've got the other 5 out here. What are we gonna do with those? And if the KCKA doesn't want them, maybe we should put them in the iron in the hat or do something with them. Those were all used for that Heartland Symposium I used to put on here.
Wonder if that would come in handy at Hutchinson when you do your event, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
those I think would be, or could be valuable KCK property. And then whatever event is happening next, we could pass it off to whoever is kind of owning that event.
You want to get them out of your garage?
I've been storing them for 10 years.
Like,
Yeah.
September is the next big event, right?
Yeah.
So it should go, so they should all go with him.
I don't know, throw my wife's car into the trunk.
Okay.
We'll have to ask her first.
No, I don't. I moved to vice president, stores all stuff in his house.
No, but I think the signs are actually good. And we would just pass them off to whoever the next event, owner is, right? So we have his event coming up, or the Central State Tamarind coming up. Those would be good signs to have out there, right? And then, I forgot we had in October. There's Deeks in October.
Deeks in October, yeah.
And nobody knows where Deeks is. I don't know how we're gonna get that in. I do plan on driving out there if I'm not in Alaska by then. But if I can meet you somewhere and I can take them out to him, and then we can use them out there. We'll just keep doing it like that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the like realtor signs, like that one, you can change it. That one's just some cardboard stuff I had for rains, that's. But the stuff that's in there's others, I got that from a sign company, but it's a plastic material, and they put the lettering on it, but with the iron signpost things,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get rid of them. We can
it's pretty high
still
quality.
Okay, so so this year we only did 3 knives for the judging because it was kind of short notice. Right? Next year we want to add in folding knives. Right, so keep that in your brain pan. Right, 2 categories for folding knives. We do subjoint blocking knives. If you want to add in another category for fixed blade knives, we can definitely do that too. Right, but we just picked 3 this year just to start it, right? Okay, grease a little bit somehow. My wife Robin made the plaques for you, so thank her on the way out. So how we're going to do this is, it is you as the members are going to vote on it. Like there's no master smiths or junior smiths or anybody that's going to be the end all be all. You the members vote on. So you're going to vote on all 3 categories, best knife for each category, and then the best knife overall. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. We'll go camp knife, kitchen knife, hunter on the tables. You can lay them out there and then walk around and vote on them.
How do we vote?
Yeah, we're gonna just do it on a card stock, right?
You wanna do that, or I have these other things in the ticket?
Right, take it on.
I don't know.
Yeah, we could do it that way, then just reuse them over there. Put a cup by each one up or something like that. still figure this out, guys. I'm not the best.
That works.
Yeah, that works.
Very good?
Yeah.
All right. So if you have knives that you want to be voted on, go grab them, bring them in here, put them on the tables. I will put little plaques next to each one of them. Amp knife, kitchen knife. Get out of your way. And don't forget to vote on the best one overall.
I need to get out there and do this. I'm assuming it's because I'll boil the steak.
Right.
Once I have that letter, until we have, because usually it takes us but when they receive it, dues are due.
Like one guy did it. People showed up. I had the opportunity to mail hay before the storm. Come up here. So I thought, I'm gonna run up here and see if I can get a half a meeting in and then haul ass back and get the hay. So I made mail a little early. And I wanted to make it. And I had a lot of fun at yours. I want to stay involved.
This
Yeah, well. I need to stay because the heat, sure. The guy don't want, hay takes all your brain, takes all your protein out. This is something I really enjoy. But after she's known, you just got to drive and you want to keep you for the guy. And the wife, you want to and Turks, I'm in there, yeah, there's an ads and all these logos. So without that, I know there's other
30 days. Yeah, the other thing, Freeman, so he makes tracks, make a lot of rounds.
That's where you're at.
It's
Yeah.
just-
Quite a scheme. It's gonna have the trial
I
that.
did this.
I like
I
it.
did this.
This.
And then I blew it up.
This is the.
What between aluminum plates?
Sorry.
You gotta be set. Where do you buy your set?
Okay, who doesn't
I'll buy
have
that
this?
from another.
Stronger than this.
The bus.
Matt, you want to?
I got that.
Yeah, one there and there.
It's like $90 for like 3 or 4.
That's where I'm at. Everything I'm getting finished. That's where I've been. It's like trying to get orders.
Yeah.
Did you get tickets? Just one for each table, whichever one you feel like is good. And this is how we're doing it.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate you going.
We're happy to do it. We're just happy to be in Kansas and here's talk about.
You're welcome, money.
I'm Robin. Somebody else thinks they can handle beautiful. All right, good.
There's your fault. It'd be fun.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
I didn't expect to get, I didn't expect to get on. It'd be fun.
Still involved in business?
What's that?
Still involved in your business?
I need to look at it sometime.
Change, well, change churches. So.
Yeah, I just
We're gonna be in there.
Oh, yeah.
We're finishing
Right
with your
now,
church.
the guy in Utah.
Okay. And then we got to send that to we change churches. So we're going to theory church. Yeah, we like it. We do well.
That's my.
Well, you're not
Yeah, there you go.
You're in the clouds, right?
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm gonna get a good back check to my wife too.
Hey, Phil, yo, is this too big for a campfire?
I hope so.
He's like, yeah, not for a big bear like you. I'll just toss this up here just because. Sure.
Yeah.
Earth mover tire tread, who's this? See, I learned a good idea. Test tires. You cut chunk of tread off.
Josh, I saw Josh do.
That's awesome.
I don't see one.
Oh, pretty nice wood right there.
I'll grab one.
Okay,
I just dropped this one.
okay.
Anything you stuck in the cup for that? I doubt it. This is.
Chopping.
Yes, sir.
You know, sometimes I've been looking before, but I had this question why I choose some things and Before we do what to do here and there, to me, it's.
I can't get mine to look like that.
What if they, barrage, you wanna bring it down to Filipino barrage, and then try to get your straight, and then kind of some adjacent night, so just what you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about the beautiful straight line.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the same one.
Well, the sandy line.
Yeah.
Well, I was down to 8 hundred.
Okay, yeah.
So you do this well, and then I bring.
No, no.
Oh, okay. I just broke things out.
I was around this all my life.
That is because Dan, I started out my
Yeah, it's super.
I'm retired.
He thinks flat ground.
So imagine it's a polyurethane base.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Hardly say flat ground is a lot harder for him. I've never hologram anything.
Like sticks in your hand. That's impressive. I'm very impressed with that. To handle it. Yeah, it's hard as work.
I'm gonna switch. Yeah.
Take a thing out of my coffee.
They did the writing part of his
Here's this silly thing that. I'm trying to hand it to you. You know the proper. Yeah, like in progress.
No, he's standing on one side of the driveway. Some big old meat he has. Well, that little old piece of sand, or something that he uses.
Kick this piece out and then, came in. That's where I layer most of the knives I make, like even on my little
RVD.
ones, I'll flare this
Like,
out.
right he's got
I just did that concept with it, and like a floater tool, striking tool, or actually, that's a little floater hammers that are just, claw hammers that I cut the walls off of, and then just pull like straight beams out of. And I use those quite a bit, and then it's just a lot of fiddle for me getting that flat and, I don't like grinding, so I figure the more I forge the shape, as far as the doubles go, the less I have to stand in front of my grinder. That big, that thin, and that straight is impressive. It took me about 2 hours to forge that. I need a system. Yeah, I'm getting to the age where I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to hammer all the time, man. I used to think, he's talking about power hammers. How old are you? 30 years old. Oh, man.
You know what? Everybody asks me, you had to buy one, so it would be compressor. That's like, if you make it to Damascus, that's probably compressor.
I had to buy one, I got the one I could afford first, and save up and buy the second. I live in a residential area, so like, I was a little stressed, especially with how, Cold Forge Ironworks has got that new press controller that makes it operate like a power hammer. They got this press controller where you can program it out. You gotta press it. Now, it's still not as fast. That's fine. It's still not as fast as power hammers. You still have the heat reduction at the size, but it's really nice with all these press and that. They're 16 ton plus, which is just a faster pump. They've got a 12 ton bench top press. It's like 3 grand. The controller itself is 3 by afterwards. You're having service for that. To me, I'm like, if I was just, if I could just buy something, I end up finding out, not only where I am, just like the car. Yeah, it's very. I heard the last thing that they're gonna find out what to do is scrapper. He had it on the bicycle trip. So I ran down there to scoop it up from him, and just sitting in my place. Yeah, it just doesn't run. It's just outside of the tarp on it. So
That's
I
it,
got
that's it, in my room.
You know those little Johnny guys are gonna. Well, I just saw that thing.
Yeah, that cloud for you to be there, so if you need anything, I can tell you. It's kind of self-serving, I like to kind of adjust my power here. Get it hitting just right.
No problem.
Is everybody done voting?
No.
Okay, so I have to do I'm gonna call the cups and put out new cups you get one vote for member's choice.
Hang on, you gotta count them, otherwise you're gonna mix them all up.
No, I'm not, well, yeah, but we'll send them to the side and I'll put out new cups. They get one vote for member's choice. Overall, that's nice.
Yes, yes, so once we put up the new cups.
You don't have that dovetail.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they welded it. They welded it.
How you doing? My name is
In the
David.
grand scheme of things.
My name is David.
It's rounding size. I would just use it as a drawing. Yeah, just draw it. And then, I guess technically, if I really wanted to just get it up and running, you could just make like spring guides for it, or flat.
Hey, don't cut up the plaques and scales, and if you do, send them to Robin so she can stabilize them first.
I don't know, part of me is like.
This is some native Kansas white oak that was cut like 100 years ago. Hung out in this guy's, the top of this guy's shop for almost 80 years, and then he died, and his wife was just giving away all the wood, and I was like, I'll take some of that.
All right, Joshua, if everybody's done, do you wanna hurry and,
Hurry and
do
count.
that, and then I'll get.
Because the guy, I just told him that he ended up unloading it off of they had it on a golf. Or just gonna ship it over to China to be built. You guys know that? He's like, oh, we're gonna throw it out. He's like, we'll scrap it.
I'll count it up.
He's like, all right, yeah, we'll do it. He's like, we're gonna shop it like 60. I need to make space so we can get what I put into it. It's pretty easy. Yeah. Chris over at Fireworks. Yeah, he said, if you don't buy it out, yeah, he said, if you don't buy it, I'll be in days. And I'm gonna buy it and just stick it in my front yard as a mailbox.
I got 2 of those.
They're not gonna
I got 2. Most of them are power in there.
This is for member's choice, once he gets all that cut up.
Okay.
1 and 3.
Not even
I
close.
don't believe.
Not
it for a
even
second.
close. Not
I made the same comment. I want to put that in the handle material.
Except, I know, he gave that to me. I gave these plaques last time.
It looked nice.
Yeah, yeah. So, he gave those to me and I was like, whoever gets these, they better make some scales.
Everybody gets
My
one
plaque is
ticket.
not that good. We need some scales out of this. That's some awesome
They
one.
do.
So,
This is for like the show section.
yes, yes.
You get one ticket to choose the best overall.
Who does not have a ticket for this one?
Everybody got one ticket for best overall?
I just sent him.
You use those for the-
No.
Okay.
One
No.
knife.
Just
No, it
one.
doesn't matter if they won or not. It does not matter. You're voting on what you think is the
It is.
best knife overall.
Yeah.
The ticket.
Oh,
Did we use the tickets that we used before?
Best overall. Best overall. What do you think is the best
Okay, I
overall?
thought I got everybody. Did anybody not get one?
So far, he's got none.
Yes, indeed.
Which one won this one? That one?
Doesn't matter.
Anybody know?
Doesn't matter. I know.
Huh?
I know. You know.
Some of them have, we have the most selected. Who's this one? Really? Oh, some because of
You can pick one all. Everybody voted on their member's choice? Pretty sure I know which one won it.
Yeah.
Now I got to know who made it. Okay, so for the best overall, so for the best camp knife? Yeah. It is Grant.
Oh, nice. Oh, you got it, Scott?
And the president should stand next to him and present him the plaque.
All right.
It's next to you.
Okay, so for the best kitchen knife. Who made this one? There you go.
You're lucky I didn't have time to make a
There you go. Hold the kitchen knife up.
And you have to cook for so.
That's right. That's right. And then the best hunter.
Yay.
I just noticed that.
Have we done this before? I think we have. Thank you.
And then the member's choice is the best kitchen knife. Take your knife back up there.
Yeah, you should do both, so then it can like distinguish the, between the
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah, good idea.
That's a good. No, we don't have to type something out on third one.
That's
Awesome.
very good.
Okay, some of you guys are leaving after this or whatever, somebody gotta go cut hay, you know? Thank you all for coming to this. And again, this is gonna be our annual event. We're super excited.